Well, the lighting's not very good in here. This is our laundry room, and our dryer seems to have wanted to conk out on us. And of course, it's always, you don't find these things out until you need to use it. You can hear that squeaking noise when I try and turn the drum there by hand. So we've got some rollers or bearings or something that are gone or seizing up. It's actually quite difficult to turn by hand. So we'll see. I've already taken the very bottom cover off, but of course you can't see anything with that. But there are some more screws there that I think hold that front assembly on. So we'll take them out, see if this front assembly comes off, and see if that allows us in to see what the problem is. I'm hoping not to have to remove it from that stand because there's not a lot of space in here to work. So I hope I don't have to take it down out of that stand in that corner. But we'll get into it. Yeah, we'll turn that on for a second instead of me trying to turn it by hand. Listen to this. Well, we're still trying to get into it. We took the top off. The top has to come off in order to get the back off because they put a couple of screws through the top of this back corner into the side panel of the dryer. So the top has to come off, then you can get the back off, almost. We found, I don't want to disconnect, it's a gas dryer. It's really dark down here, I'm sorry about the lighting. So right here is where the gas pipe comes out of the dryer and this 90-degree elbow, and there's a hole in the back of it here that's meant to come off just over the gas pipe. None of these fittings, and I don't want to start getting into taking all of these gas fittings off, so I'm just going to use a pair of tin snips and snip this piece of metal out of the side here so I can slide the back out from behind that gas pipe. And then I think we're going to have to see what holds the bottom on, because even when you lift up the back of this, there's not a lot you can see. So I'll get it off and then I'll show you what you can or cannot see from there. Alright, I got a bigger light down here so I can see. So we got the back off. I just used a vacuum cleaner to clean all the cobwebs and everything off. And I don't immediately see anything wrong. There's one of the idler wheels down there that the drum turns on. There's one on the bottom down there. Another one down there on the bottom. And there's one up here on the top, and another one right in here on the top. And none of those are wiggling around like the bearings are shot in them or anything like that, which is what I was expecting to find, was that the bearings were gone in one of them wheels, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So I think what I'm going to do is stand this back up, hook up the power cord on it again. I think I should be able to run it. We're not going to run the burner or anything on it. I just want to turn it on, let it spin, and see if I can find it where the squeak's coming from. Hopefully it's not going to be a bearing in the motor itself. The tensioner pulley, same thing. It doesn't wiggle around, doesn't move at all. We got lots of tension on the belt. I can turn the motor by hand and it doesn't make any noise, but that's quite slow compared to when it's trying to run. So I don't know where it's coming from. So I think we're going to have to partially assemble some stuff, just enough to get it running, and turn it on and see if we can find it that way. Okay, I think we found the problem. So I had it laying on its front, and I wiggled around all the wheels and whatnot, and I couldn't detect anything wiggling like a bearing was wore out in a wheel or anything like that. And they all turned freely. None of them were stiff like they were seizing up. So I stood it back upright, put the electrical cord and stuff back together on it so I could run it. Turned it on, and there's still a squeak. So I got in behind it here, and I got my son to turn it on. And this is exactly what it looks like. This is a stethoscope with a long probe on the end. And when you've got some difficult things to detect when they're noisy, and I bought this for using it on the car, but it's great for this kind of stuff. If you touch the end of that probe on something, and be careful what you touch it on, because it comes through so loud in your ears. So I started poking around where the wheels and stuff were, and they were all quiet. And then when I touched it in here on the plate where the motor is mounted, it was a little bit louder. And I moved over here and I just touched the end of the shaft where the idler pulley is, and it's very loud. So we've taken the belt off, and now when I try and turn that by hand, I can feel it's not super tight, but it's not free either. Like, it won't spin if I do that. So I think that's our guilty culprit there. So I don't think the bearings wore out. It doesn't wiggle at all. I think it's just got some dust in there and it's dried out and it's getting stiff. So I'm going to work with some penetrating oil and some fine machine oil, try and work it in around that shaft in there and see if we can get it freed up. And I'll be sure not to get any oil on the belt or on the surface of the pulley or anything like that. So I'm going to work on that now, trying to get it freed up, and then we'll put the belt back on it. And before we put anything together, we'll turn it on and we'll see if we have gotten rid of the squeak. A little bit of oil in there. Now it'll keep on spinning after I stop now. So I think that's going to solve our problem. So we'll get the belt on, we'll run it, see if it's quiet before we put anything else back together. Well, there's the drum is turning. Everything seems to be nice and quiet. I don't want to run it too long because so the gas is not turned on, and I don't want it to try and light and then start tripping out some codes because there's no gas there to open up a gas valve and stuff like that. But it's nice and quiet now, so I'm going to finish getting this thing all put back together, vents hooked up, and get it in place, and then we can finish laundry. Forgot to tell you, when we first opened it up, when I took the top off, there's a piece of paper folded up in here. It says diagnostic guide. And it's great if you have an electrical problem on the dryer, but not so good for a mechanical issue like that. Everything in these papers is all electronic. Testing the circuits, troubleshooting if you've got no flame or shutting off too soon, moisture sensors not detecting things right, all electrical in here. But at least I know where it is now if I ever need it. Okay, I've got everything back together, all the vent pipes hooked up, everything. You probably noticed on the video it had one of those flex lines on the gas line on it. And I don't like monkeying with those because I had one of those before, not here, but different house. Sat in the same position for many years. And then I got into work on that dryer, was moving it around, and it cracked that line. So hopefully this one hasn't cracked. I turned the gas back on. I don't smell any gas yet. So I think we're okay. So we're gonna fire it up and see if it gets warm, if everything's working all right. Sure sounds a lot better. The make of this is Amana, A-M-A-N-A, and I gotta say that's about 12 years old. That's the first time I've ever had to do anything with it, and if that's all it took to fix with a couple drops of oil in the right spot, I'm happy with it. Before this one we had a GE dryer, and now seeing how the two are built, I like how this one's built better as far as the drum. It has actual wheels that turn for the drum to rotate on. The GE one that I had the belt and some wheels at the back of the drum, but at the front it had two L brackets, metal L brackets, and it was coated with a, not sure what you would even call it. It wasn't plastic, but it was a white hard sort of a plastic substance. I know there's a name for it, I just can't think of it right now. And the drum just slid on those, and those actually wore right through on that one and had to be replaced. Oh, I can't remember what they call that stuff. This design with the actual wheels that turn, I like it far better. And other than that squeak that we just had there, All of the rest of those seem to be turning freely. No wear in the bearings or anything on those wheels, so unless the electronics fail on this thing, I see no reason why it shouldn't keep running for many years. We've got heat starting in there now. It just hasn't got the glass warm yet. But yes, we definitely have heat in there. So, we are good to go. This project is done. Hopefully you'll find something. You know, don't be afraid to tackle something on your own. Take your time. Pay attention to how it comes apart. Take pictures if you have to, so you know how it goes back together. And be slow about it. As you take each piece off, take it off slowly. Look in behind it with a flashlight. Make sure nothing's connected to it. And if you start to see something that you're not comfortable with, you know, something you're going to have to take apart that you don't want to, then stop. Put it back together and call the repairman. But there's no harm in trying these things yourself. And I say just take your time and really pay attention to how things come apart, and do it slowly so you can watch for stuff. You heard a little bit of a squeak there in it, so we'll get this thing. I'm gonna have to pull it off of that pedestal stand that it's on down here. That blue stain is from liquid laundry detergent that spilt one time, so we'll pull that out, disconnect that pipe, turn the gas off on it, and we'll start getting it. We took it apart and we found that tensioner pulley was seizing up a wee bit there, so we put some penetrating oil on it and then some fine machine oil, and that got it loosened up. But then we ran it for maybe six loads in it, and it started doing it again. So I need to get some heavier oil into that idler wheel. So we're back to taking it apart one more time. This time I'm going to take that idler wheel right out so that I can get it on a workbench and look at it. Don't have a lot of room in here to work. Yeah, that's what it is. That wheel is stiffened right up again, just like it was the first time. I got a very funny clip on here that I don't really want to try and get off. It's plastic. If I break it, I'm not sure what else I would use to hold that on there. So I'll take her out to the workbench and we'll see what we can do with it. So there's our idler wheel out of the dryer. Well, that clip on the end that I was talking about that I've never seen, it's just a triangle shaped clip. It's plastic. I don't know how flexible it is. Well, it's already cracked through on one side. You can't see it on there, but on that side of the clip, I don't know, if we'll try and get it off without breaking it any further. On this side of the triangle, there's an indent in the plastic, so it's very thin in that spot, and that's where it cracked. So we're going to try and reuse it. It's a hard plastic material, so it's not very flexible. Find something to clean this out with. There isn't any scoring or strange wear marks of any kind in it. There's no play in it, it's not wobbling around, so we haven't started to mess anything up that way. But that fine machine oil that we put on it the first time certainly did not last. So we'll go with a little bit heavier this time. This is just 10W30 motor oil that's in that oil can. The belt actually has a groove wore into the pulley. I should have paid attention maybe to which side was the belt was actually running on. Well, that doesn't spin as freely as it did with the fine machine oil in it, but it might be just because the oil itself's a little heavier. At least we know it's lubricated. There's nothing else you can do to it. So nothing's wore out other than it just being a little dry and stiff. A big metal C-clip would have been better than this plastic thing on the end here. I'm a little disappointed with that. Well, it seemed to spring back together tight enough that I don't think there's any chance. But once the belt's running on it, there's nothing really that's going to work itself out there off the shaft anyhow. It's going to stay in line. So I think we're going to be okay with it. Well, there's nothing left to do. Put it back together, run it again, see how long it lasts. Hopefully we don't have the same issue again. Well, we've got it all reassembled, back in place, ductwork, everything's reconnected. We started it up and ran it, and it's nice and quiet. So I think that's going to conclude the dryer video now for sure. Well, we're back to the dryer again. So we left off, we had taken the wheel out and put some 10W30 motor oil in, and it lasted much longer than the thin machine oil. It only ran for, I don't know, maybe 6 loads or something like that, and started squeaking again. So we took it apart, put a heavier oil in there, and it's lasted for a couple of months, but it's starting to do it again. So we're going to take the wheel, that idler wheel, back out one more time. We'll actually put some heavy grease on it this time, reassemble it. We'll see how long the grease lasts. I checked it before. There is no wobbling, like the bushing inside the wheel is not wore out. It's just a steel bushing inside a plastic wheel that spins on that shaft. Other than it being the lubrication not standing up, there's no other reason for it to be doing what it's doing. So we'll just keep putting heavier lubrication materials on it and see if eventually something will stay in there and stop it from starting to squeak up again. That's the last thing we can try now is grease. If that doesn't do it, then we'll have to see if we can source a new idler wheel for it. Yeah, it's kind of stiff to spin it by hand again, so I don't know why. I really thought that 10W30 motor oil was going to do the job, but so we'll wipe it up and clean that things off a little bit again. It's a tough corner to climb in and out of, so I brought the grease gun down with me, so we'll just squeeze some grease out of it. feels really stiff now, but it's just because of that thick grease in there. And the dryer was still capable of spinning it even when it was running dry and squeaking. But you don't want things running that way, besides the obvious noise. When things are squeaking, they're wearing, and you don't want to run them that way. Let's make sure we don't get any grease on the surface of that where the belt's going to slip. Alright, let's see if we can get it back in there. Certainly goes a lot faster when you're on your third time. I gotta go back and watch part of the video, see how that belt got rooted. We went back and watched our own video to see how that rooting got. I'm probably going to be in the way of the camera. So the eider wheel has to come way up high. Well, that still doesn't work. How the heck? Hang on. Ah, there we go. There we go. I knew it was a simple thing, but I just couldn't seem to remember it. There. Well, no squeaking there now. So I say, we'll see how long the grease lasts compared to all the different oils that we've tried. We got it all back together for our third time. Let's see if it's quiet. Hold it. Sounds good once again. So that's our last try now. We've got heavy grease in there. There's nothing heavier that I can do with it. So if it doesn't hold up, then we're going to have to find a new eider wheel for it. So we'll give this a try and see how long it lasts. Thank you for watching.